What if I told you that the ancient aliens we've been searching for were never aliens at all? That the gods who descended from the heavens, who taught early humans how to build, farm, and write, were actually us. Humans from the far future, traveling backward through time to ensure our own civilization ever began. It sounds insane, right? But what if I could prove it, not with science fiction, but with stone, math, and memory buried deep beneath the earth? Let's begin. 9600 BCE to Gobekli Tepe. This is the oldest known temple in the world, built by Megaliths. Look at these massive T-shaped pillars, carved with intricate animal reliefs. Mainstream archaeology says this was a ritual site, but the level of astronomical alignment here is staggering. Some pillars point directly to the rising of Sirius, a star crucial to later civilizations like the Egyptians. How did a prehistoric people, who supposedly hadn't even invented pottery, possess such advanced astronomical knowledge? The official story just doesn't add up. It's like finding a smartphone in a medieval castle unless someone gave them the blueprint. Now, let's jump forward in time to ancient Sumeria, the cradle of civilization. Here we find the first written language, the first laws, the first cities. The Sumerians claimed all this knowledge was gifted to them by the Anunnaki gods who came from the heavens. We've always pictured them as extraterrestrials. But what if heavens didn't mean outer space, but the future? What if these gods were time-traveling humans, guiding our ancestors? They taught them agriculture, mathematics, and engineering. Think about it. They weren't introducing alien technology. They were teaching the fundamental building blocks of human civilization. It was a bootstrap operation, a way to kickstart our own past. This brings us to the core of the paradox. Why would future humans do this? It's called a predestination paradox. For our advanced future to exist, our ancient past had to unfold in a very specific way. Civilization couldn't be left to chance. Perhaps there was a cataclysm, a near-extinction event, that our future ancestors survived. They realized the only way to guarantee their existence was to go back and ensure humanity got it right the first time. They had to become the gods of our own creation myths. They weren't all-powerful. The knowledge they shared was carefully selected. They didn't hand over laser guns or ships. They gave us agriculture, not hydroponics. They taught us to build with stone, not carbon fiber. It was the minimum intervention necessary to set the timeline on the correct path. This explains why ancient technologies often seem mysteriously advanced for their time, yet still grounded in the materials and tools of the era. The Great Pyramid, for example. Its mathematical precision is mind-boggling, encoding constants like pi and the golden ratio, but it's still made of limestone and granite. It's the perfect blend of futuristic knowledge and primitive resources. So, where's the final piece of evidence? It might be encoded in our very DNA, or waiting in a time capsule buried deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, or even hidden in plain sight within the myths and legends we've dismissed as fantasy. The gods didn't come from other planets. They came from other times. They weren't aliens. They were our descendants. They were us, securing our own beginning at the dawn of history. The greatest secret of our past might just be the key to our future. What do you think? Is this a wild theory, or does it connect the dots in a way nothing else can? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoy diving into mysteries like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next journey. Solemn, mysterious music begins, with the sound of wind blowing over a vast, empty landscape deep in the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey. A discovery was made that would shatter our understanding of human history. For decades, archaeologists dismissed it as just another medieval burial ground. But in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt saw something others had missed. He realized that the giant, T-shaped limestone slabs jutting from the earth weren't tombstones. There was something far, far older. It's not just an ancient ruin. It's the oldest temple ever discovered, a place of worship built an astonishing 12,000 years ago. To put that into perspective, it's more than 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. It predates the Great Pyramids of Giza by 7,000 years. This site was built before the invention of writing, before the wheel, even before pottery. Most staggeringly, it was built before agriculture. The people who erected these massive pillars were, by all accounts, nomadic hunter-gatherers, some weighing up to 20 tons and standing 18 feet tall, with no metal tools, no domesticated animals for heavy lifting, and no permanent settlements nearby. It would have required a massive, coordinated workforce, fed and housed for months, if not years. This wasn't just a pile of rocks. It was a feat of engineering and social organization that, according to our textbooks, shouldn't have been possible for another 5 millennia. And then there are the carvings. The pillars are covered in stunningly detailed reliefs of animals: foxes, boars, snakes, scorpions, and vultures. These aren't just decorations. They are powerful symbols, telling a story we are only just beginning to decipher. The animals depicted are often predators, creatures of power and danger. Some theorists believe these carvings represent constellations, turning Gobekli Tepe into a kind of prehistoric observatory, a map of the heavens frozen in stone. One pillar, known as Pillar 43, appears to depict a cataclysmic event, a comet strike that astronomers have linked to a mini ice age that occurred around 10,950 BCE, the exact time Gobekli Tepe was flourishing. Could these ancient people have been recording a major astronomical event that profoundly impacted their world? The site consists of multiple circular enclosures, each with two massive T-shaped pillars at its center, surrounded by smaller pillars embedded in the walls. These T-shapes are clearly stylized human figures, with abstract arms carved along their sides. They are faceless, anonymous, yet powerful. Are they representations of revered ancestors, or perhaps depictions of supernatural beings, the gods of this ancient cult? The sheer scale and complexity suggest this was a place of immense spiritual importance, a sacred pilgrimage site for people across the region. But here is where the mystery deepens into something truly mind. After about 1,000 years of use, the people who built Gobekli Tepe did something extraordinary. They deliberately and carefully buried the entire complex. They backfilled the enclosures with tons of earth, rock, and animal bones, preserving it perfectly for future generations to find. Why? Why would a culture spend centuries building such a magnificent structure only to intentionally bury it? It's as if they were creating a time capsule, sealing away their knowledge and their world for a distant future. Mainstream archaeology suggests that perhaps the beliefs that underpinned Gobekli Tepe simply faded away, replaced by new gods and new ways of life as farming took hold. Perhaps burying the old temple was a ritual act, a way of putting the old world to rest. But this explanation feels incomplete. The effort involved in the burial was almost as monumental as the construction itself. It was a purposeful, final act. This leads us to more radical, fringe theories. What if the knowledge to build Gobekli Tepe didn't evolve gradually? After all, archaeologists have found no practice sites, no smaller, cruder versions that would show a slow development of these skills. It appears on the scene almost fully formed, a sudden leap in cognitive and architectural ability. It's as if humanity suddenly downloaded a massive file of new information. Where could such a leap in knowledge have come from? Some have suggested an extraterrestrial influence, the classic ancient astronauts theory. But perhaps the answer isn't from the stars, but from the future. Imagine a civilization far, far in our own future. A humanity that has mastered the fundamental laws of physics, including the ability to manipulate time itself. What if these future humans, our distant descendants, foresaw a catastrophe in our past, or their past a loss of knowledge so profound it threatened the very timeline of our development? What if they sent a mission back, not just with information, but with architects and teachers? Their goal wasn't to build a temple to unknown gods. It was to build a classroom, a school, a hard drive made of stone. In this scenario, Gobekli Tepe wasn't a place of worship, it was a catalyst. The T-shaped pillars weren't gods, they were teachers, stylized figures passing on the fundamental knowledge needed to reboot civilization. The astronomical alignments weren't for predicting harvests, there were lessons in mathematics and geometry and the celestial mechanics needed for navigation and calendar making. The animals weren't just symbols, they were mnemonics, a visual language to encode complex information for a pre-literate people. This theory could explain the sudden appearance of these advanced skills. It wasn't a slow evolution. It was a direct transfer of knowledge. It could also explain why the site was eventually buried, once the lessons were learned. Once agriculture and settled life began to take root and civilization was safely back on track, the teachers completed their mission. Burying the site was the final act, sealing the classroom to prevent its meaning from being distorted over time, preserving it as an indelible marker, a message in a bottle cast into the ocean of time, a message that says, this is where it all began again. The visitors weren't from another planet. The visitors were us, reaching back across the millennia to give ourselves a crucial nudge, to ensure that the fragile flame of human consciousness would not be extinguished. Gobekli Tepe might not be a temple to the gods. It might be a monument to human resilience, a testament to our own future reaching back to secure its past. What we see at Gobekli Tepe is more than just the world's oldest temple. It is a profound question etched in stone. It challenges everything we thought we knew about our own story and forces us to wonder if the timeline of humanity is far more complex and far more extraordinary than we ever dared to imagine. The stones of Gobekli Tepe are silent, but they are speaking, and we are finally beginning to listen. Subscribe for more explorations into the world's greatest mysteries. Imagine 3,000 years after Gobekli Tepe was mysteriously buried by its own creators. Another enigma rose from the sea. We're on the tiny island of Malta. We're Neolithic farmers, living thousands of years before the Great Pyramids achieved the impossible. They constructed massive stone temples, with some individual blocks weighing as much as a blue whale. And they did this with no metal tools, no wheels, just sheer ingenuity and, perhaps, a type of knowledge we've long since forgotten. How is that even possible? It's a question that has baffled historians and archaeologists for centuries, but the real mystery isn't just how they built them, but why. These aren't just crude piles of rock. The temples of Najra and Kogar Kim are masterpieces of astronomical alignment. Their doorways and passages are precisely oriented to capture the light of the sun on the solstices and equinoxes, marking the passage of time with celestial accuracy. It's like a giant stone calendar built by a prehistoric civilization. But the secrets of Malta go even deeper than astronomy. When you step inside these ancient chambers, something truly extraordinary happens. There's a stillness, a weight to the air. The world outside seems to fall away. These temples were built with acoustic perfection. Specific chambers were designed to resonate at a very particular frequency, 110 Hz. Modern science has shown that this frequency has a profound effect on the human brain. It can stimulate activity in the areas associated with mood, empathy, and social behavior. Think about that. You enter one of these chambers, and your own heartbeat can feel like it's syncing with the ancient stone. If you speak a single word or chant, the sound doesn't just echo, it swirls. It builds. It seems to hang in the air forever. The entire chamber vibrates, and you vibrate with it. It's a deeply moving, almost transcendental experience, as if you've stepped through a doorway into another dimension. So, what if that's exactly what these temples were designed for? We've found small, curious openings in the walls, which archaeologists have dubbed oracle holes. The theory is that a priest or priestess would speak through them, their voice amplified and distorted, sounding like a message from the gods. But what if their purpose was something more? What if they weren't just oracle holes, but resonance gates? Sonic amplifiers designed not just to project sound, but to manipulate consciousness itself. This leads us to a fascinating and mind-bending idea. What if the builders of Malta weren't trying to call out to their gods? What if they were listening for something, or someone? What if these temples were built as giant receivers, tuned to a specific frequency to pick up a signal? Imagine instructions, left behind by a far more advanced civilization or perhaps even time travelers, encoded not in text, but in sound. A message waiting for the right people, with the right technology, to hear it. Modern researchers exploring these acoustic properties discovered that the 110 Hz frequency corresponds to the theta brainwave range. This is the state we experience between full wakefulness and deep sleep. It's the state of profound meditation, lucid dreaming, and what some describe as the gateway to heightened intuition or even telepathic communication. It's as if the entire structure was designed as a tool to tune the human mind, to quiet the conscious self and open a channel to something else. A channel between different states of being, or maybe even between different eras. It's an incredible thought. We look at our modern world, so proud of our technology, our instant communication, our Wi-Fi. But maybe, just maybe, these ancient people had a form of technology far more advanced, one that connected them not to a network of machines, but to the very fabric of consciousness and time. The answers aren't written in any book. They're vibrating in the stones themselves, waiting for us to listen. If you enjoyed this exploration, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the unknown. Have you ever wondered where we truly come from? Our textbooks tell us a story of slow, gradual evolution. Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, a neat, tidy progression. But what if history isn't that simple? What if, in the cradle of civilization, a chapter was torn out, a truth so profound it would rewrite everything we thought we knew? Let's travel back to 3500 BCE, to the sun-scorched lands of Mesopotamia. Seemingly out of nowhere, a civilization erupts into existence. The Sumerians. There's no long, slow build-up. No primitive cave drawings evolving over centuries. It's just, bam. Suddenly, they have sprawling cities, complex legal codes, advanced mathematics, and sophisticated astronomy. It's like the group of Stone Age people woke up one morning and decided to build New York City. It just doesn't add up. The Sumerians built magnificent ziggurats reaching for the sky. They invented the wheel, developed the 60-second minute and 60-minute hour we still use today, and created one of the first known forms of writing, cuneiform. But it's their astronomical knowledge that truly boggles the mind. They mapped our solar system with astonishing precision. They knew about planets like Uranus and Neptune, planets completely invisible to the naked eye. How could they possibly know this thousands of years before the invention of the telescope? The Sumerians gave us the answer themselves, etched into thousands of clay tablets. They said they were taught by beings they called the Anunnaki, which translates to those who from heaven to earth came. These weren't ethereal spirits or mythical gods in the way we think of them. The tablets describe the Anunnaki as flesh and blood individuals. They ate, they drank, they had conflicts, and they walked among humans, serving as teachers and kings. They gifted humanity the knowledge of agriculture, architecture, and the very concept of organized society. Now, mainstream historians and archaeologists dismiss these accounts as mythology. They call them origin stories, creative allegories to explain the natural world, and for a long time, that was the accepted view. But what if we've been reading the story all wrong? What if the Sumerians were being literal? Let's explore a radical idea. What if the Anunnaki weren't aliens from a distant galaxy? What if they were us, humans, time travelers from our own distant, highly advanced future? Imagine a future where humanity has mastered the fabric of space-time, a future facing a catastrophe, or perhaps just trying to correct a mistake, a divergence in the timeline that threatened their very existence. What if they realized that, to save their future, they had to build our past? Think about it. They would need a specific point in history, a clean slate before civilization became too complex and chaotic. They'd need to find a receptive group of early humans and jumpstart their development. They would arrive not in gleaming silver spaceships, but in vehicles that, to a primitive mind, could only be described as coming from the heavens. Their advanced technology, medical equipment that could extend life for centuries. Energy sources, communication devices would seem like divine magic. The Sumerians described the Anunnaki as long-lived, wise, and powerful. That perfectly matches the description of advanced humans wielding technology far beyond our own comprehension. This theory elegantly explains their impossible astronomical knowledge. It wasn't channeled from the gods. It was data brought back from a future where humanity had already mapped the cosmos. And what about Nibiru, the mysterious 12th planet in the Sumerian system, said to be the Anunnaki's home? Modern astronomy has found no evidence of such a planet in our solar system. Skeptics point to this as proof that it's all a myth. But what if Nibiru wasn't a physical planet in our present-day orbit? What if Nibiru was the Sumerian name for a future Earth, a world from another time, linked to ours not by space, but by a temporal corridor? Maybe the heavens the Anunnaki came from wasn't out of space, but a future hovering just out of sight, in a different layer of time. This reframes the entire narrative. The Anunnaki weren't alien overlords. They were our descendants, our children's children, acting as cosmic gardeners, planting the seeds of civilization to ensure their own timeline could flourish. They weren't gods. They were teachers. They were us, returning to the cradle to give ourselves the ultimate head start. It's a loop, a paradox, where we are our own creators. The story of Sumeria might not be one of alien intervention, but a story of humanity saving itself. A story of our own future reaching back through the mists of time to ensure we had a past. The evidence is there, carved in clay, waiting for us to look at it with fresh eyes. The greatest secret of our origin might be that we wrote it ourselves. What do you think? Were the Anunnaki ancient astronauts, or were they time-traveling humans securing their own existence? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of our past, please hit that like button. And subscribe for more content that challenges everything you thought you knew. Across 6,000 years of prehistory, the same pattern keeps showing up. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Sudden, inexplicable leaps in knowledge. Impossible architecture, built with a precision that defies the tools we thought they had. It's as if humanity keeps receiving these cosmic software updates, these massive bursts of information that reboot civilization and send it hurtling in a new direction. Think about it. We start with Gobekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, around 12,000 years ago. Hunter-gatherers, people we thought were simple and nomadic, suddenly build this massive, complex temple. It's the world's first known megalithic structure, the foundation of organized society. But how? Where did this architectural and astronomical knowledge come from? Seemingly out of nowhere. It's like someone handed them the blueprint for civilization itself. It's not just a temple. It's a message carved in stone, a starting point. Then, fast forward thousands of years to the tiny island of Malta. Here, we find another explosion of architectural genius. The hypogeum and the various megalithic temples are masterpieces of acoustics and alignment. These aren't just piles of rock. They are finely tuned instruments. The chambers resonate at specific frequencies, around 110 Hz. A frequency known to affect human brain activity and induce altered states of consciousness. It's as if the builders of Gobekli Tepe laid the foundation, and the Maltese were given the next piece of the puzzle, how to tune the human mind to connect with something deeper. It's a step up, from building a structure to building a spiritual technology. And then, we arrive in Sumer, the cradle of civilization as we know it. Suddenly, we have writing, we have mathematics, complex laws, and advanced astronomy. The Sumerians mapped the stars, developed the wheel, and created a societal structure so sophisticated it laid the groundwork for everything that followed. Gobekli Tepe was the foundation, Malta was the tuning, and Sumer was the manifestation. It's here that the abstract knowledge becomes concrete, written down, and passed on. The information wasn't just experienced, it was recorded. It's the moment humanity starts building a permanent database of its own knowledge. Each of these steps, the foundation, the tuning, the manifestation, feels like a deliberate, guided process. But guided by whom? Mainstream archaeology struggles to connect the dots. But what if the answer isn't out there in deep space? What if it's right here, in our own future? Look at what our own scientists are doing right now. We are on the verge of incredible breakthroughs. We're experimenting with quantum entanglement, where particles are linked across vast distances. We're studying time dilation, proving that time isn't the constant we once thought it was. And with AI, we are accelerating our acquisition of knowledge at a rate that is simply staggering. We are building the very tools that could, theoretically, allow us to communicate across time. So here is the thought that'll keep you up at night. Could it be that someday, far in our future, we become the ones who send the information back? What if we are the ones who ensure the timeline continues, giving our ancestors the subtle nudges they need? What if the ancient aliens we've been looking for are just our future selves, closing a magnificent, paradoxical loop? Maybe time isn't a straight line, an arrow shot from past to future. Maybe it's a spiral, a beautiful, intricate pattern carved in the limestone of Gobekli Tepe, sung in the resonant stones of Malta, and written on the clay tablets of Sumer. And maybe, just maybe, the gods of the past are simply us, remembering. If Gobekli Tepe was the classroom where we first learned to build, and Malta was the temple where we learned to listen, and Sumer was the laboratory where we learned to write it all down, then Earth itself is the grand experiment. Maybe our ancestors didn't need rescuing from the stars. Maybe they were guided by their own descendants, by us. People who had lived through the future and remembered the mistakes we haven't even made yet. Tonight, when you look up at the stars, think about this. They're not just light years above us. They're also light years behind us. They're mirrors of where we've been and echoes of where we are going. Perhaps the greatest secret of all isn't that aliens built us, but that we have been building ourselves. Again and again, across the vast, spiraling ages of time. Thanks for joining me on this journey through time. If these ideas spark something in you, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the mysteries of our past and future. See you next time.